and welcome to another English live stream. If this is your first time watching, you're very, very welcome. The point of this live stream is to help you with your English. So if it's your first time watching, we'll introduce yourself. Let me say that again. We will introduce ourselves. You see, I'm learning English at the same time, and we hope you are. Seriously though, if it is your first time watching, you're very, very welcome. My name's Craig from mansioningles.com, which is a website mainly for Spanish speakers, and it will help you improve your English. And if you prefer listening to English and helping you with your grammar and vocabulary, there's a podcast at inglespodcast.com that is published every week. And if you need help with your speaking, I do conversation classes and courses that will help you with your fluency, and you can find information about those courses at englishcraig.com. New courses starting the first week in June. And with me today, as always, my lovely co-host and ex-colleague and good friend, Lynne from putitlikethis.com. Hi, Lynne.
Hello, everybody. So, hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lynne. I'm an online teacher, and my website, you can find me at putitlikethis.com. And I specialize in my aim is to try to give my students their own voice in English, because I think sometimes when you go to courses and you're always in a group and you're following a textbook, that we're trying to teach a certain English that maybe is not really the English that you really want to use, and you're not saying the things that you want to say, and you don't feel like yourself in English. So I try to tailor make courses for people. Usually my students are one-to-one, but sometimes I do small groups. And if you have a common objective, then you can come to me, more than one person. But basically I find what your objective is, and I try to help you with the English to fulfill that objective. So of course, some of you might only be wanting to travel. Some of you might want to talk about your profession in English. Some of you might want to pass an exam, which is a completely different objective. So whatever your objective is, I try to help you reach it, and I hopefully help you find your own voice in English, so that you can express yourself the way you really want to. So if you're interested, you go to my website, and there's a contact page there, and then I can send you more information when you tell me a little bit more about your objectives. Okay.
There we go. Putitlikethis.com. Check it out. And we're just starting to see people joining us live. Hello, Gemma. Always a pleasure to see you.
Hello, Emma. Thanks for coming back. You're lovely and faithful to us. Thank you, Emma.
And if you're watching the replay, of course, then that's fantastic. Thank you for doing that. We hope this will be useful for you. We're going to talk about poetry today because we thought, it's a bit different, isn't it, Lynne, poetry? We don't often do I don't think we've ever done a live stream about poetry.
We haven't. We're also a little bit nervous because we're thinking, do people really want to know about poetry? But, English is fun. And, I think we forget about that sometimes because we're always like trying to find our objectives. But, English is a beautiful language, and there's beautiful words, and poetry exploits all of that. So we thought, you don't often get poetry in textbooks and things and in your normal courses. So we thought we'll have a go at poetry to introduce you a little bit to some English poetry and see if you like it. But we will help you, because sometimes poetry is difficult, even in your own language, like in your native language. So we've chosen a couple of poems today, and we thought we'll run them by you. There's a nice phrase, to run it by you. So we'll run them by you. We will recite them to you, and then we'll also help you understand them a little bit in case it's difficult. Okay.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
even if you don't like the poems, we hope that you'll learn some vocabulary.
Yes,
So it
definitely.
will be
And
useful.
of course, you always get good listening practice listening to Craig and I speaking English to each other because we're two natives talking together. That's different, isn't it, than when we talk directly to you?
Exactly. Welcome, Vinicius. Thank you for joining us live.
Hello.
So let's
Hi.
get going with the first one. So the first poem, I'll go first with mine, and then Lynn will read you her poem. I'm going to read it first, and then I'll explain some of the vocabulary in the poem so that you can understand it a bit better. And then I'll read it again, and hopefully the second time you'll have a deeper understanding of it. This is a poem. Let me share my screen and show it to you. This is a poem that I think I first saw in an English course book years ago.
Oh,
And I
really?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and I can't remember which course book it was, but I remember thinking that's a really nice poem. And let me share my screen so that you can see it. Here we are. It's called Warning by Jenny Joseph. So it's, well, I'll just read it for you and then we'll look at some of the vocabulary in here. So, Warning by Jenny Joseph. When I'm an old woman, I shall wear purple, with a red hat which doesn't go and doesn't suit me. And I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals, and say we've no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I'm tired and gobble up samples in shops and press alarm bells and run my stick along public railings and make up for the sobriety of my youth. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain and pick the flowers in other people's gardens and learn to spit. You can wear terrible shirts and grow more fat and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickle for a week, and hoard pens and pencils and beer mats and things in boxes. But now we must have clothes that keep us dry and pay our rent and not swear in the street and set a good example for the children. We must have friends to dinner and read the papers. But maybe I ought to practice a little now, so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I'm old and start to wear purple.
That's hilarious. I love that one. It's lovely.
It is. It's a lovely poem. So let's look at some of the vocabulary in that poem, and then I'll read it again for you. One thing that you may not know is the word pavement. One word you may not know in British English, pavement. That's where you walk. If you're walking along the street, it's the part of the street where the cars cannot go. It's where people walk. The hard surface next to a road. And in American English, it's called a sidewalk, which is a lot clearer, I think, because you're walking on the side of the street. But in British English, we call it the pavement. In the poem, you also see this expression, something which doesn't go. In the poem, she's talking about clothes, the red hat. It doesn't match the other clothes that she's wearing. So if clothes don't go together, they don't match. We can use the word to clash. When colours clash, they don't look very good together. So again, she's saying when she's old, it really doesn't matter what clothes you wear. She doesn't care if she's old. She can wear a red hat and a purple dress, and it doesn't matter what she wears. Another colloquial expression that you may not know is to gobble up, which means to eat quickly and noisily. So if you gobble up your food, then you're eating very quickly. Another thing she says in the poem is that she's running her stick along public railings. So in the street, sometimes you get metal bars to separate buildings from each other, and those are called railings. So there's a strips of metal with space in between. And if you have a walking stick and if you run the stick across, it makes a noise, which is something that she could do when she's old, because she's old. Make a noise with her stick. Another interesting expression is the sobriety of youth. If you are sober, that's the opposite of drunk, but it also means very serious. So here she's saying that when she was younger, she was a very serious person, but that as she gets older, she becomes silly, she's not so serious, and she's not so sober in her behavior. So sobriety is the adjective, the noun, and she's talking about how serious she was in her youth with all her self-control.
And I think also the word makeup is maybe interesting. Maybe you don't know that, but to make up means to compensate for. So she's trying to compensate. So when she was younger, she was very serious, and when she's older, she's going to. Sometimes we say make up for lost time, don't we? That's an expression where we compensate for time in the past that we've lost.
Exactly. And two prepositions there, make up for. So it's a multi-word phrasal verb there, make up for lost time or make up for the sobriety of youth in this case. If you are in your house, it's common to wear slippers. So they're the soft, comfortable shoes that you wear indoors inside your house. But of course, if you're old, you might also walk out of the house and still wear your slippers. And you can do that when you're old, and it's okay. Have you ever done that, Lynn? Have you ever walked out of your house in your slippers?
No, not yet.
Not yet. There's time. It's not a very nice thing to do, but if you throw saliva or eject saliva from your mouth, that's called spitting. And it's a horrible thing to do in public. But of course, if you're old, you can do it and nobody says anything because, he or she's just old. So to spit on the floor is to eject or force saliva from your mouth. Another expression is at a go, which is in one sitting or one attempt without stopping. So she was speaking about food, I think, where she would eat up everything at a go, all together without stopping. And she spoke about bread and pickle. Very often cucumbers are pickled. That means that they're preserved in some kind of vinegar with sometimes spices and herbs or just salty water. So it's a way of preserving vegetables, particularly cucumbers, pickled cucumbers. You can buy them in the supermarket in a jar. And she mentions eating pickle with bread. Another word you may not know is to hoard, Hoard, which is to keep things in your house, a large amount of something, unnecessarily. So I think she spoke about hoarding pens and pencils and keeping lots of them together at home. A person who hoards things is called a hoarder. Are you a hoarder, Lynn, or do you tend to throw things away?
No, I think I throw things away.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah,
I throw things
I
away.
don't. I mean, I have a lot of things, don't get me wrong. I do have a lot of things. I probably could live simpler, but I'm not a hoarder. I don't. I do throw things away regularly, I think.
Yeah, me too. And finally, the last word I want to show you is beer mats. If you go into a pub or a bar and they serve you a beer, they might serve it on a small round or square piece of cardboard or plastic to stop the beer dripping on the wood. Oh, you've got one there. Fantastic.
Well, it's not made of cardboard, but it's like that, isn't it? That you put down to stop, to preserve your table. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's called a beer mat. So those are the main words I wanted to show you. If you see any others as I'm reading it a second time, then of course ask us in the chat and we will explain any words to you that you're not sure about. So let's go again with this, and hopefully you will understand it a bit better. So, warning by Jenny Joseph. When I actually, Lynn, do you want to read it? Because
I'm the woman, I'm
vo-
the old woman,
no,
aren't I?
because a different voice. I mean, I can read it. I can read it.
It's
Doesn't
all
matter.
right. And then you can read mine then at the end as well. Right. Here
Okay,
we go
yeah.
then. Another one. Okay.
Go for it.
Warning by Jenny Joseph. When I'm an old woman, I shall wear purple with a red hat, which doesn't go and doesn't suit me. And I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals and say, we've no money for butter. Maybe you just want to, of course, the pension is the money that you get from the state when you're old and you can't work. But of course, if she spends it on brandy and gloves and satin sandals and not on food, then of course it's quite alternative,
Eccentric.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Eccentric. I shall sit down on the pavement when I'm tired and gobble up samples in shops and press alarm bells and run my stick along the public railings and make up for the sobriety of my youth. So the samples, we didn't explain samples, but samples are sometimes when you go into supermarkets and they're trying to promote a new type of food and then they give you a little bit to eat. Then it's true that often you see old people and they eat them all.
Don't they? Go round 5 or 6 times.
And they have no intention of buying anything. They just want to eat all the samples.
I do that now.
And press alarm bells, because unfortunately sometimes old people by accident, they go in the lift and they press the wrong button and they press the alarm bell, for example.
Yeah.
But I think this lady, she wants to do it on purpose. Deliberately, to make up for the sobriety of her youth. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain and pick the flowers in other people's gardens and learn to spit. So she's going to be a real rebel, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. You can wear terrible shirts and grow more fat and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickle for a week, and hoard pens and pencils and beer mats and things in boxes. So I think that's all the things that she thinks she has the freedom to do when she's older. But now we must have clothes that keep us dry and pay our rent and not swear in the street and set a good example for the children. We must have friends to dinner and read the papers. So that all sounds quite boring, doesn't it? It's not very exciting.
Yeah.
But maybe I ought to practice a little now, so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I'm old and start to wear purple. So she's kind of thinking, isn't she, about being adventurous and doing something different.
It's a nice way to look at old age, because people tend to not want to get old and all the negative things. But if you think of it like that and all the freedom it gives you to do stupid things that you can't do when you're younger, it's kind of, well, yes, when I'm old, I can do that and nobody will say anything.
No, that's true. And nobody looks down on you or anything. It's, So you do have a certain freedom again, yeah? You're free of the confines of society, aren't you, a little bit?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that in that last verse there, but maybe I ought to practice a little now, that ought to is similar to should. So it's a semi-modal verb that really means should. Maybe I should practice a little now.
No, being old.
Anyway.
We have some other questions from people. Okay, so Javi says, can you please explain to me the word hodgepodge? Well, we can, but it wasn't in the poem, Javi. But anyway, Craig, you explain hodgepodge. What's hodgepodge?
It's a selection of different things that don't
Things that don't go
necessarily go
together.
together. Yeah.
I
Um,
think maybe Javi thought about it when you said it doesn't go, wasn't it? You said something, wasn't it? The purple hat and things that don't go
yeah.
together means they don't match. And maybe Javi remembered the word hodgepodge, because a hodgepodge is when you wear things that are all different, that they don't, that logically they don't fit together.
So yeah,
And
it's a
you can use it for clothes, but you can use it for all sorts of things. You could use it for a dish that you're cooking in the kitchen if you just throw all the ingredients together. Or if you are a team, like a football team, you could say, oh, we're a hodgepodge football team. We've got somebody from Colombia, somebody from Brazil, somebody from Lithuania. So that like you're a hodgepodge, a mixture of nationalities, for example.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions here?
Yeah. Oscar asks, what age do people receive pension in the UK?
I can't find that question.
Just
Oscar.
underneath hodgepodge, underneath Javi's question.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think it's 67.
I think so now.
Yeah,
It's gone up, hasn't it? I
it's
think.
gone up. Yeah.
And Oscar, remember that you need to say at what age do the people receive pension in UK? When you're making a question, you need the question word do or did in the past.
So yeah, as far as I know, for men and women, it's 67. It used to be that women could retire a couple of years earlier than men, but now it's the same age. Yeah, 67.
So, guys, what did you think of the poem? Did you like it, or is it too obscure for you? And do you like the idea of being daring when you're old? Was that a nice idea expressed by the poem? Maybe you can tell us in the chat if you liked it or not. I liked it, Craig. I thought it was a lovely poem.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
it expresses a nice idea, doesn't it? That's what I like about poetry, because they're not like long explanations, but they're really concise, but they express such beautiful ideas that would take like pages and pages and pages if you were to explain them normally. That's the power of poetry, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Shall we move on to your poem?
to mine right now. Everybody, buckle up. Do you know buckle up when you go into the into your cars and you put your seatbelt on? You have to buckle up because you're in for a shaky ride. A hard time. No, you're not in for a hard time. But I thought that, of course, if you're learning English, everybody has heard of Shakespeare, haven't they? And of course, Shakespeare was one of Britain's most famous and most prolific poets, wasn't he?
Yep.
And he's still fantastic. I mean, Shakespeare is fantastic. And if any of you have ever looked at the history of English, fun fact, Shakespeare added over 2,000 words to the English language. Did you
That's
know
right.
that?
Very common words that we use every day.
Yeah. So Shakespeare was very fundamental in creating the English that you guys are all learning, because he was so creative and he used to make up words and play with words and expressions that we still use today. So I thought I've picked out a Shakespeare poem. Now, it is true that there are some words in Shakespeare that we no longer use in modern English. So sometimes when you read Shakespeare, that can be a little bit of a barrier to understand Shakespeare. So I think before I read you the poem, I'm just going to give you I'm going to explain a few old English words, which you obviously don't need to learn to use, but just so that you can understand them. And then that might make it easier for you to understand the poem. Okay. So I don't know, did you put these on a banner, Craig?
Yes, I've got them ready for you. So
That's really kind.
first
So
one is
was thee, thou.
thee,
Right.
thou.
Okay. So in Old English, we used to have different words for the word you. Now, you know from your grammar that we use the word you as a subject pronoun. So we say, Craig, you are fantastic, right? That's you. And we also use the same word as an object pronoun, which is, for example, I'll give it to you, right? I'll give it to you. Right? So it's nice in modern English because we just have the same word for different things, right? But in Old English, they used to have different words. And the object pronoun, the with double E, was the object. So I will give it to thee. And in modern English, you do sometimes still hear that. And I've put the example. Sometimes in the marriage vows in church, they say, with this ring, I thee wed, which means with this ring, I am marrying you. Right? Wed used to be the old word for marry. I thee wed. Okay.
Like from wedding, yeah.
From wedding. That's right. And Javi has just written, once I read the old version of you was thou. And you're absolutely right, Javi, if you can put the banner back up, Craig, because thou, it does mean you, but it's the subject pronoun. So if I say, Craig, you are fantastic. If I was to say it in Old English, I would say, Craig, thou art fantastic.
Thank you thee.
I thank thee is what you would say. I thank thee. Exactly. So thou and
that would
thee
be I
means
thank
you.
that. No, I thank thee.
I
That's
thee
right.
thank.
Object pronoun. Yeah.
Maybe I thee thank. Okay. Now, we also can still see the old use of thou. Sometimes if you're religious and you go to church, it's actually in the 10 commandments. If you know the 10 commandments in the Christian religion, there are 10 rules of life. And one of them, I put it there, one of them is thou shalt not kill. And for some reason, the 10 commandments are still in Old English. So it means you must not kill anybody, basically. That is one of the 10 commandments. So you still hear thee and thou today, but we don't use it really. You just hear it in these old phrases. Okay. So thee and thou mean you, right? Can we have the next banner? Thy means your. So thy book, I liked thy book, which means I liked your book.
Thy
or
will shall
I
be
like
done.
thy live stream. I hope you like our live stream. I like thy live stream. Right.
That sounds so weird, doesn't it? Mixing Old English with technology.
With technology words. But thy just means your. Okay. So thee, thou, and thy, it's something to do with you. Right. And then on the banner, we've got this apostrophe ST. Now, the grammar used to be a little bit different, and they didn't really have the present continuous tense, right? So they didn't say, I am going. You are looking, or I am. They used to put apostrophe ST, okay, at the end. And that is like the present continuous form of the verb almost, okay? And then 3 more words, and then that's all. And then I'm going to read the poem, right? So art is are from the verb to be. Hath is has from the verb to be. And fair, which you know in modern English, we can say I have fair hair, but we tend to use fair for light nowadays. But fair also used to mean the word beauty. Okay? All right? Okay. Right. So buckle up. Oh, have I still got some more? Oh, yes, I do. Oh, a few more. Sorry.
A few more, yeah, quite a few more.
I've got quite a few more. Sorry. Well, hopefully you'll understand. Temperate is similar to a word nowadays. Sometimes we talk about temperate climates in modern English, and that means not very hot or not very cold, like middle, medium, temperate. Okay, have we got another word? Bud. These are words that exist in modern English as well, but I'm just explaining them because they're in the poem and you might not know. So the bud is a small part of the plant that then when it grows, it becomes a leaf or a flower, often a flower, isn't it? So you can see when the flowers are about to blossom because you have these little buds that then open. Okay, that's a bud on a plant. Lease means a period of time. You've probably heard of car leasing, maybe. Car leasing. That means when you can rent the car for a longer period. Or you can lease a flat, or you can lease a house, for example. You can rent it for a period of time. A limited period of time is a lease. Complexion is still a word in modern English today. The complexion is we refer to the colouring that you have. So it's the natural appearance of the skin on a person's face. And it can be its colour or its quality. So you can say, for example, I would be described as having a fair complexion because when the sun comes, I burn immediately. My daughter, one of my daughters, has a dark complexion. She goes really brown when the sun comes out. Okay, and you can also talk about the quality of your skin. So you can say you have a good complexion, or you have a poor complexion. If you have a poor complexion, maybe you have lots of spots. Lots of teenagers have problems with their complexions when they're teenagers, and then they grow out of it, and then their skin becomes better. Okay? All right. Just 3 more. To dim means to make something become less bright. Maybe you know about the dimmer switches that you can have in your house when you can operate the intensity of the light. That is called a dimmer switch. Dim the lights means make them less bright. Okay, just 2 more. Untrimmed means not having been trimmed. Now, to trim, you can trim your hair. I haven't got a beard, but if I did, I could trim my beard. And it means to make the hair tidier or more level by having a small amount cut off it. So if you trim something, usually it's hair, then it makes it tidier. But for example, you might make a presentation, and then maybe your presentation lasts 15 minutes and your boss comes to you and he says, we've only got 10 minutes. Can you trim it?
Trim the fat.
Can you trim it? Which means, can you make it smaller?
Shorter.
Shorter. Okay. And then the last word is to brag. Brag is to speak proudly about what you've done or what you own. Another word for that is boast, B-O-A-S-T, but boast is not in the poem, right? So, for example, if I go, oh, I've got a great car and I have a fantastic house and I have 3 summer houses and I have a yacht. None of this is true, but that is bragging. Okay.
So it's quite a negative word, isn't it? To brag.
It's a negative word
not
to
nice.
brag.
It's
It's not nice because you're making people, you're trying to show off. Yeah, Javi says to show off. That's right. That's the phrasal verb. And the more formal verb would be to brag or to boast.
So do you want to show the poem, Lynne, or are you going to just read it first before we show?
Well, I am going to. They're all buckled up. You're all buckled up, aren't you? Right.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Some Shakespeare.
So I thought I will read the poem to you. I will try with my voice to make it easy to understand. And then afterwards we'll have a look. But let's just have a go to see how much Shakespeare you understand. All right. And then if you feel, if you capture a little bit of it, some ideas, then good for you. Then you can go home at the end of the class and you can brag to your friends, I understand Shakespeare. Okay? All right. So I'm going to read it to you. Are you ready? Right. Now, I'm just going to give you a context. This is a love poem. All right. This is a poem from Shakespeare. We think from him. I mean, he wrote it. And it's possibly to a woman. And it's somebody that he loves very much. And he wants to impress the woman. Okay. Yeah, he's trying to flirt with her, I think. It's a flirtation. All right. So this is Shakespeare. So we can change it a little bit, Craig. I'll try to flirt with you. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. Are you ready? So this is Shakespeare's sonnet number 18. Craig, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
Very well read.
So, I don't know, did anybody understand it?
That was lovely, Lynn. That was lovely. We're bringing
I tried
culture.
my hardest.
We're bringing culture to the world here on the live stream. Not only English, but Shakespeare. Incredible. Well done. That was lovely.
All right. Well, I tried my hardest. I hope you might have got a little bit, so we can put the poem up and then I'll explain it to you. And it's it's quite funny.
Javi said it was beautiful, so
Thank you, Javi.
one person enjoyed it at least. I thought it was lovely.
Okay. So can you bring the poem up and then we can read it and see?
To just give me a second. Here we are. Should be able to see it now.
All right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It's quite short as well, isn't it?
Okay. Oscar said he didn't understand anything. That's all right, Oscar. You will in a moment.
We'll explain it. Lynn will explain it to you.
Okay. So remember that Shakespeare is trying to seduce this woman, right? I was trying to seduce Craig with this.
I came over all hot.
You did. I could see. I hope your wife wasn't listening. So, okay. So the first line is Shakespeare says to the woman, shall I compare you to a beautiful summer's day? He doesn't say the word beautiful, but obviously a summer's day is one of the nicest things in the world, isn't it? So Shakespeare's saying to his potential partner, for his flirtatious partner, he's saying, shall I compare you to a summer's day? And then he says, no, you are more lovely, you are more beautiful, and more temperate. So you're not too hot or too cold. Yeah, you're just right. Yeah,
and he's
you
also
are more
saying
beautiful.
More beautiful than nature as well. He's saying you're more beautiful than nature and weather.
Exactly. And then he says, he starts to talk about the problems with summer, right? And he says, rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. So you have these beautiful flowers with little buds that are about to be beautiful, And then the wind comes in May, and sometimes the wind is really strong and it destroys all the beautiful flowers, right? So this is a problem with summer, right? Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. And anyway, the length of summer is much too short, right?
Especially in
Summer's
England.
lease hath all too short a date. That means the length of summer is way too short.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to compare you to a summer's day because you're so much better. You're better than that, all right? He continues slagging off summer, right? So he continues criticizing summer. He says, sometime too hot, the eye of heaven shines. Now, this is poetical. The eye of heaven. What is the eye of heaven? It's the sun. And sometimes the sun is simply too hot. And often, and then other times, often, his gold complexion is dimmed because maybe a cloud passes. And when the cloud passes the sun, then the sun is no longer nice, is it? Because it's dim, it's gone less bright. So he's criticizing summer. And then he says generally, and I think this is about nature in general, he says, anyway, every fair from fair sometime declines. So everything that's beautiful in nature, eventually it dies and it's not going to be beautiful anymore. Or, we get older and we're not as beautiful. We wear purple and red and things like that.
Spit in the street. Yeah.
And spit in the street. So every fair from fair sometime declines. So it gets worse. And that's by chance, or it could be that it's just nature's changing course untrimmed, because you cannot change the course of life. You cannot change it. Everybody's going to die at some point. Okay. So really, it's quite depressing at this point, right? Because everything is going to die and lose its beauty. And then Shakespeare says, Craig, thy eternal summer shall not fade.
Or live forever.
Your summer is going to live forever. Your beauty is going to live forever. Your eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Now, that's a difficult one to understand, but it means you are not going to lose the beauty that you have. You will never lose your beauty, right? You're never going to lose this wonderful beauty that you have. Then it says, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade. So this is, death will not boast that you wanderest is walking, that you, remember the ST is the present continuous. Death cannot boast that you are walking in his shade, which means death is not behind you. You're not going to die. Your beauty is not going to die, Craig.
Eternal beauty, everlasting
You're going to be
beauty.
eternally, because when in eternal lines to time thou growest. Now, eternal lines are the lines of the poem. So the point is that your beauty is captured in the lines of my poem, and your beauty is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger over time. And he says, as long as men can breathe or eyes can see, this poem lives, and this poem eternalizes your beauty. It gives life to you. So the woman who this poem was written for, if it was a woman, we don't know, but whoever it was, he was trying to seduce. She is eternal, because for the last 300 years,
more.
200,
1500,
1500, yeah, maybe more. No,
600, 600 years.
For the last 600 years, this woman's beauty is still alive in this poem.
Captured in those words.
Captured in the poem. Now, isn't that nice? I love this.
It's a bit like a video going viral on TikTok.
What?
Where capture, and then everybody hears about it because it's such a famous sonnet, such a famous
yes, that's
piece
true.
of Shakespeare. That
Yes.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day is a very, very well-known opening line. Maybe
Yes.
people don't know the rest of the poem that Lynne's explained, but those first 2 lines are very, very famous.
So go on, Craig. You can say it to me now. Go on.
I'll seduce you now.
Try to seduce me. Go on.
Lynne, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art... I'll start again. Seriously.
Sorry. Go on. I'm loving this.
Okay, don't laugh because it's a serious poem
Okay,
here, Lynne.
sorry, it's a serious
I'm
poem.
trying to romanticize this. Okay.
Romance me. Go on.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou oust, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. I messed up a couple of lines there, but I gave it my best
That was just
shot.
the oest and the growest.
Yeah,
You
it's
get them to
difficult.
rhyme.
It's wanderest in
Oest.
his shade and
And
growest.
growest and oest.
Oest.
Yeah. But I think you did very well, Craig. I feel very flattered. Thank you very much. Bravo, Javi says.
Javi.
Bravo. Well done.
Javi, do you want to
Okay.
come and join us and you have a go at reading this? Do you want to? Thank you, Gemma. Do you want to
Thank
try?
you,
Because
Gemma.
we can bring you in to say this poem if you want to. If anybody wants to try to read some Shakespeare, I'll put a link in the chat here, and you're more than welcome to come and join us live and read this poem.
I tell you something, when you know a poem in another language, you get a lot of street credibility, know. I remember learning a French poem, and it used to be my flirtatious trick in France.
Did it work?
Not really, no. But it was always a conversation starter. People were really surprised that I knew a French poem. And I knew it because I was in a competition when I was at school to read a French poem. So I knew the poem off by heart, and it was a very old poem. And so I used to be able to impress quite a lot of people by quoting this poem in French.
I bet you did. I bet it was very impressive. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got
Okay.
about 10 minutes. Shall we try a limerick?
Yeah. I think Javi says he's going to try and come in, though. He says, sure. I don't know if he's coming in. Are you coming
here he
in,
is.
Javi? There he
Here
is.
comes Javi.
Well done, Javi.
He's just connecting. You have to give permission to your microphone and your camera, Javi.
Oh, that's great.
Hi.
Hello, Javi. Hi.
Welcome. Can you hear us okay? We can see you, Javi, but
Hello,
I don't
Craig.
think
Can
Hello.
you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Welcome. How
Do
are
you
you?
want to try and read the poem, Javi?
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yep. You want to try?
Great.
Yeah,
You have-
thanks, Craig. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can
we
hear
can.
you. We can hear you fine.
Oh, so nice. Thank you so
You're
much
joining us
for
live.
thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to join live
You're
and
welcome.
this streaming.
Where are
It's
you?
very
lovely.
lovely.
Where are you speaking from, Javi? Where are you?
I'm right now in Russia, but I'm from Peru.
Wow.
Ah, well.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you're
Great.
very welcome.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to
Yeah,
try to read the poem?
yeah, for sure, absolutely. Very
Great.
thankful to be given the chance to read it.
Okay,
Okay.
just one
Go ahead.
second. Let me share my screen so that you can see it.
All right.
Can you see that, Javi?
It's loading. Going.
I
Yeah,
think you're on
I
your
can.
phone, so it might take some time. This is
Yeah,
very
I can
brave
do
of you. I'm very
it.
impressed that you're
Yeah,
going to try and do this.
Me too.
yeah. Because
Oh,
this is ancient English, right? It's the
Yes.
old
Mm,
English.
it's about
Sure.
very.
600 years old. Yes, very old.
Wow, it's definitely very old. My gosh.
Yeah.
All right. I will give it a try.
Give it a
Go
Uh,
try.
on.
Give it a shot, Javi. Give it a
all
try.
right. Here I go. Shakespeare Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds to shake the darling buds of May, and summer leaves all too short a date. Sometime to hold the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dim, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course and trim. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair dost, nor shall that brag thou wonders in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long life is, and this gives life to thee.
Fantastic,
Fantastic. That
Javi.
was
Well,
That was
incredible.
really, really good. Very brave
Better
and
than me. Better
excellent.
than me.
thank you so much. You
Much
make me laugh,
better.
guys. You make me laugh. And I really like that, Lynn, your
It's
explanation. Explained so perfectly. And you,
yeah.
Craig, you really amazed
Did
me.
you understand it then? You understood some, yes?
I would say 40% the first time you read it, Lynn.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. But once you get into the hang of it, it's not that English is not, I mean, it looks when you read Shakespeare, you think, wow, this is another language. But once you get the tricks of thou and thee and that and thy and the wondrous, generally you can understand it, and there are many sonnets that are very interesting in English. And if you ever get the chance to go to England, I definitely recommend, if you're interested, to go to Stratford, because that was the birthplace of Shakespeare. And if you go to the Royal Shakespeare Company Theatre and try to watch a Shakespeare play, because when you try to read a Shakespeare play, it's very, very difficult. But if you go to the theatre and you see the actors acting out the Shakespeare play, you will understand a lot of things, because they have such wonderful ways to communicate the language, and then you begin to understand it quite well. So I definitely recommend, if you get the chance, go to see the Royal Shakespeare Company. That's a theatre group that only does Shakespeare plays.
Thanks so
And
much,
it's very
Lynn, for the
nice.
invitation. I definitely have to England to definitely listen the
Uh-huh.
original version, the classic version of English.
Uh-huh.
And
Hmm.
I remember the word though that was the old version of you, because long time ago when I was in high school, I read the version of Romeo and Juliet, the original
Which was
version
Shakespeare. Yeah.
of Shakespeare. And yeah, and I remember the word, the old version of
Thou,
you was though.
thou,
That's what I
thou,
remember.
thou, like
Now,
cow. Thou.
yeah,
That's
and
right.
definitely,
Yeah.
I definitely have to make my way to England
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, to witness and to watch the performance of Shakespeare. The city
Yeah.
was Straucortes.
Stratford. Stratford.
I'll write it in the chat for you, Javi.
Stratford upon
Okay.
Avon, it's called.
Oh,
Stratford. It's
oh,
near kind of Birmingham, like St Midlands. It is. Yeah.
oh, so So kind from you, Lynn,
All
to
right.
make me the invitation.
No, a pleasure.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you
coming in
very
to say
much, Javi.
hello.
Thank
Thank
No,
you.
you.
I'm very
Bye
pleased.
bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
so
Bye
much.
bye. Bye bye.
So yeah, be careful with Stratford because there's also a Stratford in London.
Oh,
So
yes,
don't.
that's
Yeah,
right.
there's
Uh-huh.
a Stratford in in the east of London, which is not the same.
No,
Avon is
no.
a river, and
Uh-huh.
that's why this village Stratford, where Shakespeare was born, it's on this river Avon, which is why it's called Stratford upon
And that's
Avon.
where they have the main headquarters of the Royal Shakespeare Company. And they have theatres and they have lots of plays there to see it.
Fun
Okay,
fact:
shall we finish? Go on. Go on.
he died on the 23rd of April,
Oh, really?
1616.
Oh, that's
So
tomorrow.
no, 23rd of April.
Oh, no. Oh, April. Yeah, no,
We're,
sorry, we're May.
we're in the
Sorry.
we're in the darling buds of May at the moment.
That's true.
So that makes it about 500 years old, more or
Wow.
less. Yeah, 500
Yeah.
years.
So she has aged much better than the woman in your poem who's
Yes,
changing, who's dressing in red and
in
purple.
purple,
Yeah,
exactly.
this
Yeah.
woman has, or this, yeah, then we know the thing. Shall we finish with a limerick?
Okay, yeah, let's
Right.
do one
Now,
limerick. We should explain what a limerick is, first of
we
all.
shall, because you've seen poetry, and of course, poetry often rhymes at the end. But another poem form, a sonnet is what we've just read there, which has a very fixed rhyming scheme. But there is another poem that everybody in England knows, which is called a limerick. And a limerick has 5 lines traditionally to it. So can you put up an example, Craig, of a limerick, and I'll explain how it's made. Um,
There we are.
and children, everybody can write limericks, right? So can you make it a bit bigger?
I'll try. Yeah, here we go.
Right.
Let's
So
try
the
20.
limericks are poems, but they're very silly poems. They're very they're funny and they're nonsense. They don't have a deeper meaning, right? So for example, but you hear them because they rhyme in a particular pattern. So this one is: a fellow jumped off a high wall and had a most terrible fall. He went back to bed with a bump on his head. That's why you don't jump off a wall.
Not exactly Shakespeare.
Not Shakespeare.
Not exactly.
But what you can see is it has 5 lines. The first line and the second line, the last word has to rhyme. So we've got wall and fall. And then the third and the fourth line is a different rhyme: bed and head. If you can see there, bed and head. And the very last line has to rhyme again with the rhyme from the first 2 lines, right? So, Craig, you read it because you might have a different rhythm to me. I don't think I read that very well. Go on, you drew
A
it.
fellow jumped off a high wall and had a most terrible fall. He went back to bed with a bump on his head, and that's why you don't jump off a wall.
Good. Okay.
Got
Can we
more
show
here.
another one?
Oh, you like this one, don't
This
you?
is my favorite one. I love
can
this one.
read
I
this
think
one,
it's so
yeah.
funny. Does everybody knows James Bond, 007, as he's called, right? As 007 walked by, he heard a wee spider say, "Hi." But shaken, he shot it right there on the spot as it tried to explain, "I'm a
Spy.
spy."
Very good.
Spider. But spy rhymes with spy.
Here's another one before we go. We'll
Mm.
leave you maybe with this. This may make it a bit bigger. There wasn't a fellow is a person, a bloke, a man. It's another word for a man. There was an odd fellow named Gus. When travelling, he made such a fuss. He was banned from the train, not allowed on a plane, and now travels only by bus. Do you want to do the last one, Lynn? There's one more. Come on, we may as well do the last one.
Uh-huh.
Let me make it bigger. It seems a
Remember
bit.
that
ashamed to come from Shakespeare to this, but anyway.
No, I think it's great. You can. The thing is, guys, they're really easy to make. We were going to try and make some with you, but we've run out of time. But if you want to try and make one, I'll give you some homework.
Maybe next time.
Yeah. Right. So remember, I'd rather is I would rather, which means I prefer. Right. So I'd rather have fingers than toes. I'd rather have ears than a nose. And as for my hair, I'm glad it's all there. I'd be awfully sad when it goes.
Yeah, mine's going as well.
So here's your homework, everybody, right? It's really easy to make limericks. You just have to have the first line. So the first line of your homework, you can make a limerick for Craig or make a limerick for me. You can say, there was an old teacher called Craig.
Yeah.
Or you can start with mine. There was a young teacher called Lynne.
Or there once was a teacher. There once was a teacher called Lynne.
Lynne. And then all you have to do is you have to try to find words that rhyme with Lynne, and there's lots of them, right? Like bin, chin, sin, win, okay? And then you have to make something up so that you can end with the thing. Your name is more difficult, Craig, isn't it? So there was a young teacher called Craig, but there are some words that rhyme with Craig, like vague, the plague, you know, the Black Death, the plague, Craig, vague. What else did we say? To push, you could use the ed endings like played or made. That's also allowable. Okay.
I think I've nearly got one for you. There once was a teacher called Lynne who threw students' work in the bin. They were so sad, they thought she was mad because she stuck it on her chin. The last line didn't work. No.
Last line didn't work, but guys, you've got a whole week or 2 weeks to practice. You can impress us next live stream. We can.
There was a young man called Javi. What rhymes with Javi?
Lavi. Savvy. There was a young man called Javi. He was incredibly savvy.
With languages, he was really savvy.
Mm-hmm.
He came on the live stream.
And read like a dream.
That very nice man called Javi.
Yeah.
I don't think we're in Shakespeare's category, Lynn. I don't think
but we're trying.
Right there, but we're trying.
I don't think that will be around in another 600 years. Let's just put it that way. All right, we better say goodbye now, hadn't we? I think that's it time.
So. Do you want to remind people where they can get in touch?
Lynn? So if you're interested in doing any courses with me, my website is putitlikethis.com, and you can contact me over the contact page. I'm an online teacher and I do tailor-made courses to help you achieve your own objectives in English.
And I am Craig from mansioningles.com, where you can study. If you're a Spanish speaker, there's lots of help there for Spanish speakers on mansioningles.com. And don't forget the podcast. If you are a podcast listener, you can find Ingles podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, and that will also help you with your English. There's a new podcast every Sunday. If you would like to practice your fluency in your speaking, then by all means go to englishcraig.com, where you will be able to, book a free 10 or 15 minute consultation, and I will give you all the details you need about my conversation courses. The next one is starting next week. So if you'd like to join us in June, the darling buds of June, then get in touch and I'll explain everything about the course to you. Well, thank you for keeping us company. It's been a lot of fun. We hope you enjoyed the poems. Mm-hmm. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Take care, everybody, and keep reading poems. And remember the limericks. See if you can write
That's easy for you to say.